Good afternoon. Every 10 years in the United States, we conduct a census, and every 10 years, we also redraw district lines for Congress, for state legislators, and here in Los Angeles for members of our city council and our school board. Why does it matter? Districts that are drawn in principled ways, in accountable, fair, and transparent ways, well, those are districts that have legitimacy and credibility, and those assure the best possible representation. For reasons that have never been more important for our residents throughout Los Angeles, there are some very key issues on the table. Residents deserve districts that are drawn for their benefit, not for the benefit of politicians, including incumbents. Residents deserve districts that respect voting rights so that no one's voting rights are diluted. Residents expect and deserve districts that are drawn so their voices will be heard. And such districts are going to reflect communities of interest. Otherwise, without doing that, you have districts that split up those communities. And when those communities are split up, their political voice is less. The priorities expressed by their representatives may not reflect the priorities of those residents. And geographic closeness, you want to try to make these districts as compact as possible to further reflect those interests. So in Los Angeles, we end up having districts that reflect the best principles of redistricting. So today, I want to make two important announcements regarding our Los Angeles Redistricting Commission. First, I'm very proud to appoint to the Redistricting Commission a person of great honor, a person of wisdom, a person who is committed to our city and has tremendous integrity, a person who has a long history of distinguished public service, and that is former California Supreme Court Justice and ex-U.S. Ambassador Carlos Moreno. Justice Moreno also served on the Blue Ribbon panel I convened on school safety. He serves now as an advisor to the LA Police Commission regarding issues of trust and equity in the community. And I want to say, importantly, for the role to which Justice Moreno has been appointed, he is an expert, a trained mediator. And I want to highlight that skill, among others, because I'm anticipating Justice Moreno is going to be looked to by the other yet-to-be appointed members of the commission for leadership. They're going to look to him for guidance on how to wind the commission's way through often complicated, contentious, and sensitive issues. It's hard to imagine a better appointment than Justice Moreno. I am so pleased that he accepted the invitation to be appointed. He is going to be a fair and open-minded leader in drawing lines here in Los Angeles that put the people of Los Angeles first. Second announcement I want to make today is I want to discuss ways that we can best assure that our districts are transparently drawn, are open and fair, are based on principle, and are representative. So I've asked Justice Moreno, and he has agreed to pledge to follow a set of basic principles that would guide the redistricting of our city. That's all I'm going to ask of him. Otherwise, Justice Moreno is going to be operating completely independently using his exquisite judgment. The principles that I'm announcing today are based on principles that emerge from the California Citizens Redistricting Commission's rank criteria, as well as guidance that emerges from the city charter. The principles include these. Districts shall comply with the U.S. Constitution and achieve population equality. Districts shall comply with the Voting Rights Act. I alluded earlier to the importance of not diluting any voter's power in the electoral process. Districts should, to the fullest extent possible, respect the geographic integrity of neighborhood councils and other communities of interest in our city. Those districts should be geographically compact, as I said earlier, so that nearby areas of population aren't bypassed for more distant areas. And the fifth principle is that where an incumbent or any political candidate resides should be utterly irrelevant to the drawing of districts. The other principles are the key principles on the table here. Now, I think these principles are not only important for Justice Moreno to adhere to, and they're principles, of course, that he readily adopts, but they're also important for the system to adopt, for the commissioners to adopt. And so today I'm calling on other elected officials who will be appointing their representatives to this commission to announce that their representatives will adhere to these principles or something very close to them. If that happens, the residents of our city are going to have a redistricted city that will have their legitimacy, that will be credible and fair for everybody. I'd like to ask Justice Moreno to step forward. As I mentioned, what an honor it is, Justice Moreno, to be with you at this announcement today, but it's an honor to have known you, to have worked closely with you. I am so proud that you've agreed to participate in this essential process. Justice Carlos Moreno.
Thank you, Mike, for that very generous introduction, and thank you for asking me to serve on this redistricting commission. I'm truly honored, and I just want you to know from the very beginning, I fully embrace the 5 principles that you've set out. At no time in our history has the issue of voting rights been more essential to a free democracy in our country. These are principles that, if followed, I think will ensure that Los Angeles residents get a fair, honest, and representative government. I agree in particular with your comments that districts should be compactly drawn, that there should be a shared community of interest with respect to not only geography, but socially, historically even. A community of interests that can bring our various and diverse communities together. These districts should be drawn irrespective of any partisan politics or incumbents who are in office to ensure that the issue of, as you say it, dilution of voting, which is often achieved, and the Supreme Court has commented on this, how votes can easily become diluted and have less effect, less impact on our governance by making votes not count as much as they should. You know, a long time ago, the U.S. Supreme Court decided the principle of one person, one vote. Well, in my view, that was not enough because through the years, one vote or one person has not meant one vote when districts are configured so that individuals, voters in one particular section of a district lose really their voting power. So I think it's essential that when this commission gets all the data that it's going to use to formulate and to design and draw the district lines in this case, that we keep that in mind to avoid the dilution of their votes. I share also your view that the district should be drawn in a manner that shares and takes into account the history of those neighborhoods, whether it's Boyle Heights or El Sereno or Lincoln Heights. Currently, we see districts that are far-flung, and the term that was created 150 years ago, gerrymandered, I think is aptly appropriate in how districts have been drawn historically, and not only in Los Angeles, but really throughout the country. So I look forward to working with the other members of the commission, to analyzing the data and the reports that we get from experts who are analyzing and making presentations to the commission. And I think at the end of the day, Los Angeles will have a government, city councils, that truly, transparently, and effectively represent the people of those districts. So thank you so much.
Carlos, thank you so much for those words. It is evident from the presentation you just made why you are such a worthy appointment, the first appointment to the Redistricting Commission. If the other appointments come anywhere close to your wisdom and integrity and capacity to serve, we're going to have one of the best redistricting commissions ever in the history of Los Angeles. And as you said, especially at this moment, when there are so many urgent questions about how our government functions here in Los Angeles and around the country. Questions about whether voices of members of the public are really heard. Questions of racial justice. These are key issues that are deeply ingrained in the process of how we create districts in the city of Los Angeles. And you're going to bring, I think, a very thoughtful and important perspective to that process. I want to say a few words in Spanish, and then if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. Ahora en español. Hoy hago dos anuncios importantes sobre el proceso de redistribución de distritos de Los Ángeles. Primero, estoy orgulloso nombrar a la Comisión de Redistribución de Distritos de Los Ángeles a alguien que es una persona de honor, compromiso, integridad, con una larga historia de servicio público. El juez jubilado y ex embajador de los Estados Unidos, Carlos Moreno. En segundo lugar, quería discutir las formas que mejor pueden garantizar un proceso de redistribución transparente, abierto, justo y representativo. Hoy anuncio que le he pedido al juez Moreno que se comprometa a seguir una serie de principios al hacer los mapas del distrito basados en los criterios de la Comisión de Redistribución de Distritos de Ciudadanos de California, así como los de la Carta Magna de la Ciudad de Los Ángeles. Estos principios están diseñados para hacer que el proceso sea más justo y más responsable. Gracias. Now, Rob, any questions?
We do not have any questions at this time.
Very good. That was obviously the most clear and direct press conference in the history of press conferences. I want to again thank our friends at LA City View, Channel 35, for always being here to assure that important public service announcements are available throughout our city. You guys are always terrific. Thank you so much. And again, to Justice Moreno, a lot of gratitude. This is going to be a very important process. I do anticipate your leadership is going to be critical to the outcome. Thank you all very much.